This video is going to be focusing on the last few chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, as of the writing of the script anyway. Whilst mainly focusing on the Sukuna showdown, we've been getting little snippets for each character to shine, and with the most recent chapter, chapter 253, it has recontextualized everything we know about the best character in the entire series. You know, the guy who's in the title and thumbnail? Kusakabe. If you don't know my thoughts on Kusakabe as a character as a whole, check out this video, but as you can probably tell by the title of it, I think very highly of Kusakabe. If you've already watched it or you just don't care to, let's get into it. I'll just give you a quick outline of the most recent chapters to catch you up to speed real quick. Chapter 251 has the fight inside of Yuta's domain rage on, just after we saw Yuta use Cleave against Sukuna at the end of the previous chapter. Yuta and Yuji throw hands with Sukuna. We even get a glimpse of Yuji's blood manipulation, which he's all but stated to have at this point. It continues. Sukuna releases Hollow Wicker Basket so he can use a World Splitting Dismantle. Yuta already knows this, so he rips out Sukuna's tongue in his stomach. Pretty cool. We get a little flashback discussion talking about how Megami and Sukuna's souls aren't fused together. Yuta then uses maximum output Jacob's ladder. Yuji tries to wake up Megami, who is understandably a little bit sad with the most recent deaths around his family, so he kind of just checks out at this point. The chapter then ends with Yuta eating a twin meteors to the chest, breaking his domain, but before the last page we see Maki sneak in like she did against Naoya, as most domains don't recognise characters with zero curse energy like Maki and Toji, so they can enter domains as they wish, catching Sukuna off guard. Chapter 252 has us starting outside the barrier of Yuta's domain, just before Maki attacks Sukuna. We're here with our main man Kusakabe, alongside Ino and Maki, discussing the plan we saw at the end of the previous chapter. The majority of this chapter itself is just the fight between Sukuna and Maki, but we get some nice little pieces sprinkled throughout. We see Choso tend to Yuji after he starts succumbing to some of his previous damage to help him heal, so we know Choso's alive, which is good. The chapter caps off with us seeing a conversation between Hikari and Uraume. Whilst Hikari is pretty content with the current scenario, thinking this looks like a clear win for the sorcerers, Hikari starts talking smack to Uraume, to which Uraume glazes Sukuna almost as essentially as Gege Akutami himself, saying that basically Sukuna has a relative power level, meaning he kind of scales to whoever he's fighting, so he's still holding back despite the fact his connection with Megami is weakened and he's really been stabbed in the heart. He doesn't really care. He still hasn't flexed yet. The closest comparison I can think of to make with this is with Bleach and Kenpachi, where he will always scale himself to his opponent. This is why Kenpachi can go from fighting a pre-Bankai Ichigo and draw with him and also fight multiple captains around the same time. But this is a Kusakabe video, not a Kenpachi one. So chapter 253 starts with the page that inspired me to even make this video in the first place. We get the narrator asking the question, who is the strongest grade 1 sorcerer? To which we get replies from Mei, Nanami and Gojo, all of which claiming that Kusakabe is in fact the strongest grade 1. This interaction itself mirroring who was the strongest just before Gojo was sealed. Also, just feel like I have to put this here. I told you all that Kusakabe beats Todo. I told you so. I don't know. I just, since we're even arguing it, just put it in contentious for now. Maybe you'll come to your senses later on. We'll figure it out.
Maybe.
The only caveat to these replies is that Gojo says that it's a different story if the three great families are included. Now, this statement is easily enough explained. If you didn't know, the rank of special grade 1 sorcerers held by the higher-ups of the Zenin clan is more so a title than anything. Special grade 1 isn't a rank that's given out by the Jujutsu Technical School like the rest of the grades. It's given to people who work outside of Jujutsu Tech, who are around or above the level of grade 1, but below special grade. But since this isn't an officially given grade, the actual grades given to Naoya, Naobito, Junichi and Ogi from Jujutsu Tech is probably grade 1, or they may not even have grades, but they're around that level. Though they may be above that rank, Naoya and Naobito, no question, are above grade 1. Ogi and Junichi, probably not above grade 1. They can kind of give this special grade 1 grade out to whoever they like, whoever wants to feel strong from having the special grade 1 title. But since Gojo refers to the three great families, and the only grade 1s or special grade 1s we know from the three great families are the special grade 1s from the Zenin clan, it makes sense. Basically, to shorten this down a bit, Gojo here is saying that, yeah, out of Todo, Nanami, Yaga, etc., Kusakabe is the strongest grade 1. But if they included Naoya and Naobito in the grade 1 rankings, Kusakabe might not win, which makes sense. Watch this Naoya video, find out why. The other interpretation I guess you could take from this Gojo comment is that there is somehow some grade 1s in the big three families we've yet to meet. Those families of course being the Zenin, Kamo and Gojo clans. The Zenin clan has more special grade 1s we haven't met, since it seems like anyone could just get this rank. The Kamo clan is pretty barren, and Kamo Noritoshi is in line to be the next head, so I doubt there's anyone else notable there. So I guess then that maybe there's some forgotten members of the Gojo clan we haven't seen, but in my personal opinion, I feel like we would have heard about them if they were at the level of grade 1. So I personally believe in the interpretation that Gojo is saying that Kusakabe is the strongest grade 1, barring Naoya and Naobito, since they're the strongest in the clan at this point. Because this little flashback Q&A clearly takes place before Gojo gets sealed, and Nanami's still alive, so it's before Shibuya. The other notable thing in this page is Kusakabe's response himself. When asked who the strongest grade 1 is, he replies, "Someone other than me or Usami." Now, there is a surprising amount to unpack in this small sentence. First of all, Kusakabe is pretty humble and says it's not him, contradicting the other responses that were given, and on top of that he names a character called Usami. Now, the fandom has been theorising who this character could possibly be, and from what I can tell, the most logical character to choose from, that we know of that doesn't have a name, but has been shown, is, as of this moment, Kusakabe's unnamed sister, which was seen during the Yaga flashback just before his death. I've already covered it in depth in a couple of videos before, so I won't explain how Yaga helped, but all you need to know in this context is that Kusakabe has a sister that may also be a sorcerer. It makes sense, as people who join the world of Jujutsu usually do so through blood ties, right? Such as the aforementioned 3 great families. We haven't really seen someone who is a sorcerer be related to a non-sorcerer, or at least someone who isn't connected to the world of Jujutsu at all. So it would make sense for this character to be Usami. It would also make her a grade 1, which is pretty huge. And if this character was Usami, it would make even more sense, as she isn't even confused by the fact that her son's soul is inside a teddy bear, as she probably knew or had some knowledge of how Yaga's CT worked. The statement also gives us an inkling into how Kusakabe sees this Usami by saying that she's not the strongest, just like he isn't, even despite how highly he is rated among other sorcerers, as these veteran sorcerers like Gojo, Nanami and Mei think he is the strongest grade 1. You could argue that Kusakabe says this as he may view people who are classed as the strongest to be in the most constant danger, and he doesn't want to deal with that and doesn't want that for his sister either, so he downplays both his own and her abilities to prevent them from having to deal with the repercussions of being known as the strongest grade 1. But that's a lot of conjecture. The chapter goes on, more of Maki and Sukuna fighting. Ino shows up with his AA-12 and gets one-tapped and kicked out a window, all according to Kusakabe's plan, as he grabbed the 7-3 sword and tried to hit Sukuna with a sneak attack, though it fails. More Maki fighting, some really cool paddling work in this chapter. Sukuna gets hyped thinking about how Maki and her heavenly restriction is the exact opposite to his entire existence. Whilst he is the pinnacle of Jujutsu, she doesn't have any cursed energy, but despite that, she can see Sukuna's slashes better than most. Then he hits a black flash at the end of the chapter, buffing him to 120% and making it so our main man has to fight the King of Curses whilst he is fully buffed to 120% and healing with RCT from the black flash. The chapter literally ends with his narration. Is this really happening? Me versus Sukuna? Wait, for real? Now these few chapters, despite Maki being the main focus for a lot of them, give us a lot to think about in regards to Kusakabe, or Kusakabe, however you pronounce it. It changes. The largest, in my opinion, is the strongest grade 1 statement. Now, I believed this for a long time, but as Kusakabe remained pretty featless outside of his ridiculous defense, it's always been very hard to argue that he is the strongest grade 1 sorcerer. But with this page, we get a bit more evidence to fuel Kusakabe's peak grade 1 status. The fact that Mei flat out states that he is stronger is ridiculous. She's a grade 1, he's a grade 1, she says Kusakabe is the strongest. Nanami says the same thing, but on top of that, Gojo says it too. And even before this, right, we have Ino gassing up Kusakabe at the beginning of chapter 252. The statement goes as such. Not to mention how many of us do you think can just prance around special grade sorcerers without a care in the world, says Kusakabe, to which Ino responds, I'm almost certain you could. This is Ino, one of Nanami's closest associates and someone who wouldn't accept a grade promotion without Nanami's approval despite his skill. He is the biggest Nanami glazer, not counting that weird woman that asked Nanami cosplayers to pull her hair. She was weird, but it just goes to show how highly Ino thinks of grade 1 sorcerers and how highly he must think of Kusakabe if he believes he could just prance around special grade sorcerers without care, giving a little, not a lot, but giving a little bit more credence into the strongest grade 1 title. Just to push this agenda a bit more, I'm going to go through some of Kusakabe's largest feats and statements, right? All of these are majority defense based, as that is Kusakabe's main gimmick, okay? Given his expertise in the new Shadow style and in turn the simple domain. And whilst I say these, I want you to think of Nanami, Toro, Mei, Yaga, and Gaku Ganji, okay? I want you to picture any of these characters doing what Kusakabe has done in these feats, okay? In the order they are presented to us, Kusakabe survives being in the range of maximum meteor. We know this as Panda took damage from the blast, as did Kusakabe, meaning they were close enough to take damage from the blast to survive. Some people theorize that Symbol Domain was used by Kusakabe to protect himself and Panda, but that is contentious and one of his weaker feats. Then, just at the closing of Shibuya, he blocks maximum Uzumaki that was started point blank in front of Miwa, taking no damage from this same blast that could contend with a true power Rika blast. Kusakabe takes 0 damage, as the only damage on him shown is from the previously mentioned maximum meteor blast from Jogo. After blocking this, Kenjaku even compliments Kusakabe's knowledge and skill after taking the attack. Then for like 100 chapters we get nothing Kusakabe related, as he just kind of disappears for a while during the Culling Games, until the battle in Shinjuku between Gojo and Sukuna. Now, as Kusakabe narrates the majority of the fight, we do get some stuff. One statement I wasn't aware of until recently. Okay, at the beginning of chapter 231, in the midst of the Shinjuku showdown, Kusakabe asks the sorcerers around him which of them have been seriously punched by Gojo. Hikari and Yuta raise their hands. Not a lot of people notice this, but so does Kusakabe, meaning that he has also been seriously hit with a blue amplified punch from Gojo. This is evidenced by the fact that Kusakabe then proceeds to explain the concept of Gojo's blue absorbing the surrounding space around his fist. He knows how it works because he was hit by it. Though you could argue Nanami may also know how it works, since Nanami says Gojo can't be kept up with, but it's not explicit enough about Gojo's curse technique to say for a fact that Nanami completely understood the application of blue, because I doubt he ever took one. But whilst we don't know how Kusakabe may have reacted to being punched by blue, Hikari and Yuta saying that they both threw up after a single punch, maybe Kusakabe was the same, we just don't know. Since Kusakabe's knowledge of the Limitless kind of feels similar to Gojo's, due to his knowledge of the in-depth applications of it on something as simple as a punch, it would stand to reason that he took a hit from Gojo with blue amplifying it. I mean, just look at his hand. It's raised. Then after Gojo's death, when everyone jumps on the battlefield, Kusakabe manages to react to Sukuna's slashes and uses his Symbol Domain in order to protect Higuruma on reaction, to which Sukuna realizes that all the members of the anti-Sukuna squad have upped their defense. Then we get a small feat in the latest chapter, chapter 253. Kusakabe manages to land a surprise blow that is blocked by Sukuna. It will do some damage, as the curse technique imbued in the 7-3 sword in this special grade curse tool will still affect Sukuna, but it won't really do any damage. It will do damage, but it won't really do any. Chapter predictions. This will date this video significantly, but it might be fun to look back at this section after finding out how the next chapter will go next week, right? So, what do I think will happen in chapter 254? Goofy animation I made aside, I personally think this chapter will boil down into Kusakabe surviving with the new shadow style. I feel like we'll probably get a flashback with maybe him and his sister, and maybe the two of them learning the new shadow style. But despite me gassing up my boy, I don't think he's going to do any real, significant damage to Sukuna without the 7-3 sword. His character also doesn't suggest he'll land a Black Flash, but you never know, I guess. When one Black Flash comes out, usually others follow. Sometimes from the same user, sometimes from a different user. We'll just have to wait and see. There's my predictions. Here are a couple other people's predictions. Here's some from a community post I made asking people what they thought would happen. Memes aside, I feel like Kusakabe will actually show off some techniques with the new shadow style that'll have Sukuna praise him as Kenjaku did, and stall him till Yuji shows up, as he seems most ready to return to the fight. I don't know if Yuji's the most ready. Choso seemed he was more healed than Yuji was, since he was helping him recover, and Choso had the entire Yuta domain fight to heal. So I don't know if Yuji's the most ready, but I can see that happening. I have no idea what to comment, but I feel that he'll surprise us somehow. Oh no, we'll see. As others said, it'd be wild if Kusakabe soul swapped with Yuji while fighting Sukuna IMO, but it's pretty unlikely. I mean, I don't think it's Kusakabe's ability, but if it was, I wouldn't like it. I want Kusakabe to remain the no CT user, similar to Miguel and how Yuji used to be. Just straight hands. That's how I want Kusakabe to remain. Or at least, straight swords. No clue what's going to happen, just excited to see my boy in the spotlight. That is the correct answer. I really hope he doesn't have a curse technique. That's one of his main selling points. I agree. Aside from that, a Black Flash using a sword, for real this time, not movie exclusive with Yuta. The Black Flash with Yuta wasn't a sword Black Flash, it was the sword gets blown up and then he just punches him like every other Black Flash. The only Black Flash we've seen with a sword is still in JJK 0, but it's a Black Flash with the record with Nanami, because he does one with a couple sword slashes there, and I think 2 of them are with his blunt sword. So I mean, it would be nice to see it with an actual sword, but yeah, I agree with that. tight. Two things will be true about the ending of JJK. Mei will figure out how to get paid, and Kusakabe will figure out how to avoid death by the skin of his teeth. He's been doing it so far. He's been doing quite well. He's been blocking and parrying everything so far, so yeah, seems about right. It won't be a fight. It will be a Sukuna complimenting Kusakabe for being smart enough to challenge him, just like in Shibuya, and they smoke and chill, trust. Out of all the characters that are like on the roster that would like just have a conversation with Sukuna, Kusakabe is one of the more likely candidates, simply due to the fact that even Kenjaku complimented his knowledge on the new Shadow style. And just looking at Kusakabe's commentary, it's clear that he is like mega brain, you know, he's Mr. Fundamentals himself, so he knows like everything about cast energy. So it would like make sense for him and Sukuna just to have a discussion in the middle of this Shinjuku hole in the ground. They will hug it out. Maybe. I mean, I hope not. I want Kusakabe to get some real fucking feats this battle, bro. I want some real feats. They can't hug it out. He's gonna parry Fuga. I mean, as Kusakabe said when he was just looking at the newly awakened, like, four-armed Sukuna, he was like, he couldn't think of a reason as to why Sukuna can't summon the flame arrow. He's just like, well, I hope he can't use it. So if he does whip it out against Kusakabe, it would make sense. But at the same time, I don't think it would do damage. It wouldn't like do anything significant to him. I mean, how does the flame arrow compare to Maximum Uzumaki, to dismantle slashes and shit? Like, I don't know. Obviously it's like a high AP attack, but parries that. It's Kiro style, just parries it. And here are a couple of my fellow JJK content creators to give their predictions in 2 sentences or less, as I need to get this video out quickly before the new chapter comes out. But before we jump into their predictions, I don't say this enough, so I'll say it now. Like and subscribe, etc. If you enjoy this video, let me know and I'll make more. And the next video will be about either Yorozu, Charles Bernard, or someone else who's a bit of a secret. Anyway, here's what they said. Orion.
It's a fake out. Kusakabe is going to stall Sukuna by yapping for about half a chapter, and then Maki's going to come in, shaking off all the damage that she took, being like, all right, what's up?
Mookie.
I mean, I think for sure there'll definitely be a flashback to his sister, but I think for him to at least stand a chance, what's probably going to happen is like he's going to unlock a curse technique or like reveal like some hidden ability he's never known about or something.
Jaded.
With Black Flash's raised reverse curse technique output, Sukuna will repair the part of his brain and test Malevolent Shrine on Kusakabe's simple domain.
Eternal Flame.
You see, I think Kusa Goat be himself. The Goat is going to deflect a bunch of cleaves, and Sukuna is going to get impressed for new Shadow style because he's the Goat.
Outlaw Truth.
Kusakabe is gonna start losing, but the Goat Hikari is gonna come back after beating Rame, and it's gonna end off with basically Sukuna squaring off with Hikari, who's stronger than Yuta, by the way.
With that, the video comes to an end. Let me know what you thought of the little animation at the start. Let me know if you want me to keep making these more topical videos. Let me know if you believe this Kusakabe propaganda. And thanks again for watching. And thanks to the other channels who gave their predictions, as well as the people who commented. Make sure you subscribe and leave comments if you want your predictions and answers to be shown in my next videos. And thanks to Tribal on Patreon. And toodles, my doodles. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.